The Flat Earth Society. In the eerie post-storm light, yellowed as a rotted sunrise, the sailors didn't see the edge until it was too late. Their ship grounded on a sandbar at the world's rim, and the crew disembarked to investigate. Strange, encountering what they'd sailed for all their lives, the horizon. It rendered cargo a ruse, ports mere diversions. The sailors reverently approached the Earth's border. Reaching out, they touched a surface pearlescent like the inside of a shell. Smooth but malleable, it retained the shape of their cautious, poking fingers after they withdrew. It's the children's favorite story. When Jessie tells it to the boy and girl, they behave better. Jessie is an expert seamstress. She takes up their clothes and patches her own, which were her sister's before consumption lay waste to her. Jessie embroiders tales in her head while she lies beneath the master at night. Bruises weave into her soul, and she stitches over with pastel floss. Richard, the boy, won't eat. Everything is too mushy, too tough, too rubbery, too green. He's small for his age. Jessie lets down his sister's hems, but not his. She tells him if he eats well, he'll never stop growing. You'll reach the rafters, and you'll be strong too, so you'll peel the shingles back and greet the rooks. Will I find that bubble over the world? One day. The boy eats, listening to the story of the sailors leaving their marooned ship to follow the horizon around. Jessie speaks of looming mountains severed by the soft membrane, solid wedges of rock loosed to drift past the stars. The sailors of the story rescue a goat kid as they scale the divided mountain's bouldered haunches. This detail pleases the girl, Ernestine, who loves animals. She weeps if a mouse is trapped or a dog struck. One evening she flies screaming at a coachman beating his horse. It's an unseemly display from a gentleman's daughter, and Jessie hopes the master won't hear about it. She washes Ernestine's hot, teary face. She tells of a potion that turns people into plants. If they're cruel to living creatures, you can make their eyes scale over with leaves and sprouts shoot out their ears. They turn green and roots bind them to the ground. Would that awful coachman turn into grass? And his own horse could eat him. Jessie pauses with the flannel behind Ernestine's neck. You want that? Maybe. The horizon leads Jessie's sailors to the Arctic, where the bubbles glow rainbow tints the snowflakes. Ice needles stretch out to the ocean, subduing the waters. Richard is sent to school, a cavernous place of grey food, organ music, and knowing smirks. He despises it but eats, and grows, and evades negative attention. He writes to Ernestine and Jessie that he might have seen the world's edge from the train, might have glimpsed the bubble shell's swirling muted colours through a break in the clouds. The butler gives Jessie paper, and she answers Richard in painstaking block letters. The butler initially disapproved of the master hiring a girl from so near the docks, but she keeps the children out from underfoot, and he supposes it isn't Jessie's fault she caught the master's eye. Jessie brings her sailors back to the tropics. The baby goat prances hoofprints in warm sand. Native villagers invite the men to their fire circle to share spit-roasted meat and juice-gushing fruit. Ladies dance in grass skirts, and the children throw an empty coconut further away from the flames. No one but the sailors notice the bubble shell bisecting the upper branches of the exotic trees. While her tales expand, anxiety shrinks Jessie's stitches. The thread concealing her bruises starts to bulge. She writes to Richard that all is well, that he must be taller than the school pipe organ now, that Ernestine has learned to turn poachers into hedges. Before Ernestine, too, is sent off, Jessie sews blossoms and magic words into her hems. Ernestine refuses to settle at boarding school. She barely feels her punishments, convinced she can magic the cane into a silken orchid stem. War comes. Having eaten obediently and grown tall and strong, Richard goes. He writes to Ernestine, tells her this time he's found it, Earth's End. They wonder in their letters what became of their storyteller and seamstress, their everything. When he stumbles over the top, mud sloshing in his torn boots, mortars and comrades dropping, Richard finds himself surrounded, not just by explosives and bullets, but by a serene, glowing mantle. Richard rests his palm on the edge, and softness thrums through him, a warm recognition. He smiles. Machine gun fire pierces his diminished sky without a dent, and the bubble keeps him enfolded to the end. Richard's war doesn't stop the rest of them. Years later, Ernestine, beanpole slim, cigarette raspy, and still carrying a hand-stitched scrap of hem next to her ration card, stops on the way to the bomb shelter to free a whimpering dog from some rubble. The dog's tail thumps her leg. She remains crouched beside him as sirens wail and the mantle descends around her. She could scurry away with everyone else, but to what? An empty house and shameful inheritance. This bubble feels like her true home. Her legacy is secure. Last week she taught the children at the shelter an incantation to transform rockets into fuzzy gold dandelions. She gives the dog a last pat and then a firm shove, and he disappears beyond the bubble before the bomb falls. Jessie, too, has long ago been absorbed by the bubble shell. It sliced through the laundry as her exhaustion peaked. The birth didn't go well, but she must work anyway, and her baby was travelling to a godly family across the sea. All night she prayed his ship met the right horizon, and suddenly the horizon came to her. It slowed the wringer, cooled the scalding tubs, and softened the clattering washboards. The harsh greys became a gently breathing sunrise, and Jessie collapsed into it, falling off the border of the world as if she never existed. At the horizon, the sailor's captain looked up from his tropical feast and saw a boy on the other side of the fire kick the coconut ball through the bubble. It left no wrinkle as it vanished. In the next instant, another youth appeared from beyond the bubble and threw the ball back. There was no lifting, no drawing aside. The border confined only the sailors. The captain studied his crew's laughing, firelit faces and wondered if he should tell them or keep leading them in circles round the edge until the membrane shrank so snugly around them that they turned on a pinpoint.